Welcome, Middlers, to the Medium in the Middle podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I take you on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual exploration. I am a Reiki master teacher, a spiritual and business mentor, and of course, a psychic medium. And I am here to share my story and help you tap into your extraordinary abilities. Join me every Wednesday as we dive into the realms of intuition, energy healing, and all things mystical. Whether you're a seasoned spiritual seeker or just dipping your toes into the magical waters, this podcast is your go-to source for inspiration, guidance, and a whole lot of lessons and laughter along the way. Let's get started. Hello, Middlers. Welcome back to episode 274. My name is Stephanie. I am the medium in the middle, and we are back from a 2-week break. I just had some much needed time off, so I am back. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling rested. I'm ready to hit the ground running. And I am back with the anticipated part 2 of the wedding poem from Spirit. So if you haven't heard part 1 yet, pause this episode and go listen to episode 273. And in that podcast is where I tell you part 1 of this story. And then I left you on a cliffhanger for 2 weeks, and I'm back to finish the story for you. But before we jump into the second part of the story, I have to acknowledge and celebrate that today, Medium in the Middle turns 6 years old. Holy cow. On August 13th, 2019, I released my first 3 episodes and put Medium in the Middle out into the world. I don't know what to say. I have so much to say. So because I really want to complete the part 2 of this series, this episode will be the part 2 of the wedding poem story. And then next week, I will be doing a birthday episode. So much has happened in 6 years. We need a recap. We need a summary. We need a reflection. By we, I mean me, but you guys have been along the journey with me. And it's going to be really nice to kind of wrap up the last 6 years. Wow. So happy birthday, Medium in the Middle. You will get your full episode next week. So yes, I'm coming off 10 days off, beautiful, glorious days off. I had mostly a staycation. I hung out around Banff. I did spend a few days in Kelowna. I had a friend visiting. I took a marketing course. I did a bunch of stuff around the house. So it was a jam-packed 10 days, but I do feel rejuvenated. I was feeling jaded, but I'm back and ready to go. The Mentees in the Middle for fall has sold out. The last round of my mentorship for 2025. I could maybe take one more person. So send me an email if you really are feeling like you missed out. And the next time that the doors will open for my mentorship will be January 2026. You can join the wait list and the doors will open in December. We have a lot of things coming up. So Reiki trainings. Reiki Level 2 is this weekend, August 16th and 17th. The next Reiki Level 1 is September 13th and 14th. The next Mediumship Practice Circle is August 23rd. So next week, the Mediumship Practice Circle is held monthly. I've been doing this for 1.5 years now, every single month. And I know I've told you this a million times, but all mediumship levels are welcome. You don't need any previous experience. It can be your first time. We will clap for you. You will give and receive a 20-minute reading, so it's really nice. There's no expectations. It's okay if nothing happens. Something always happens. But yeah, come join us. I will leave all the links you need down below in the show notes. So in part 1 of the wedding poem from Spirit, I told you about how I was going to my cousin's wedding and the mother of the bride started to say a poem-like speech in my head. I thought it was similar to a mother of the bride's speech, but I didn't know why it was rhyming. And the mom in Spirit was really trying to get me to put it into their wedding card. So in part 1, I told you that I didn't put it in their wedding card, but I did go ask the bride's sister and the bride's dad what they thought about this poem. They both said, yes, give the bride the poem. So where I left you in part 1 was that I had just talked to the bride's dad, and I just had this very strong urge that I had to go to the memorial stand where they had the photos of all the past loved ones, past family members. And I was like, oh, I really need to look at it right now. That's where I left you hanging for 2 weeks. So I'm going to tell you what happened. As I walked over to the memorial stand, of course, right in the center was a photo of the bride's mother. And there was other photos of family members all around, but only beside the bride's mother. The bride had written her mom a little note beside the photo, and it was in a poem-like form. So it was, again, kind of rhyming, kind of, haiku style. It was a poem written to her mother as a bride on her wedding day. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is why her mom has been saying a poem rhyming speech in my head, because she's answering her daughter's poem. She knew that there was going to be a little letter beside her photo at the wedding, so her poem looping in my head was the response to the poem her daughter wrote and put beside the photo. So after I saw that, I ran back to the sister and I was like, oh my God, I just figured it out. I finally went to the memorial stand. I saw the photo of your mom and I saw what the bride wrote beside it. She wrote your mom a poem, which is why your mom is writing a poem back. And that was kind of the last piece of confirmation that I needed to know that I had to deliver this poem. So that really locked it in for me. Okay, so I'm at the wedding. I talked to the sister. I talked to the dad. I went over to the stand. I saw the poem written to the mom. I went back to the sister, realized that I had to do this. And then after that whole ordeal, and I did channel a little bit for the sister and the dad, I was like, I need to go sit down. So I just went and I sat down with my cousins. They were eating dessert and, talking. And I just kind of zoned out for a second. And I knew I had to just take a moment, chill, before I returned back to the wedding festivities. Now, if you think the mediumship stories end there, oh no. It would not be the medium in the middle at a family wedding unless I did more channeling. So I'm sitting at the table with my cousins, chilling out, taking a breath. And then my brother comes and sits next to me at the table. And instantly I feel nauseous. It hits me in the throat. I'm overwhelmed. I feel anxious. I sit up in my chair. I take a drink of water. My eyes start shifting. I was like, what the hell is happening? Where did this come from? Why don't I feel good? Why do I feel like this? Oh my gosh, I never feel like this. No, I only feel like this if spirit's around. Oh, spirit's around. Oh, who would be around? Oh, who just sat down? Oh, my brother. Okay, well, maybe there's spirits close to my brother. So then I went and I just moved to another table. So I got up and I went to another table. And my brother came with me. So he moved to that table too. And then the feeling was there again. And I was like, oh, brother, someone's around you. There's spirit around you. I got to get away from you. Stop following me. So I'm going to the bathroom. So you guys know my number one rule when you need to clear is go hide in the bathroom, go in a bathroom stall, clear your energy, wash your hands, and it's just an easy way to reset. So there was a spirit around my brother, so I went to the bathroom, and it was really, really, really strong. I haven't had it hit like that in a long time, years, a long time. So I was like, wow, this is really overwhelming. Is it because I'm drinking? Is it because I'm in big crowds? I don't know. So I'm in the bathroom and I'm breathing and breathing. There was no one else in the bathroom at this time. So I'm washing my hands, breathing, washing my hands, breathing, clearing. I was like, it's a man. It's someone's dad. What is going on? Whose dad would it be? It's someone's dad. It's a man. It's someone's dad. It's a man. And I'm in the bathroom clearing and breathing. And then two of my cousins come in the bathroom and they're like, hey, Steph. And I'm like, hey. And I didn't want to look weird, and I also couldn't go back into the stall because I was already standing outside of the stall. So then I just left the bathroom. I'm like, I have to leave now. So I left the bathroom, and then I just stood in front of the door of the bathroom because there was this hallway, And I was standing in the hallway, again, just breathing and clearing and trying to figure out who this spirit was and why am I so overwhelmed by this. So then as I'm standing in the bathroom hallway, 2 other cousins come and they're like, "Hey, Steph, what's wrong?" Because you could tell something was visibly wrong. I was overwhelmed and overheating and breathing heavy. And I was like, "Oh, there was a ghost around my brother." And they were like, "Oh, who is it?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's a man. It's a father. It's someone's dad." And my 2 cousins who were talking to me at that time were both in the wedding party. And I looked up and I was like, "Oh my God, it's a dad for someone in the wedding party, for one of the groomsmen." I was like, "Which groomsman's dad has passed away?" And they're like, I don't know." And I was like, "Oh, I finally know who it is. Like, I'm going to go figure out who it is." So I left the bathroom area. So as I'm walking from the bathroom back to the wedding, I'm thinking, who are the groomsmen? Who are the groomsmen that I don't know? Who are the groomsmen that are my cousins? So there was my cousin, there was my brother, there was 2 or 3 guys that I didn't know. So I was thinking immediately that it must be one of the 2 guys that I don't know, one of their dads. So I went back to my brother, I marched right up to him, and I said, "I figured it out. It's a dad, and it's for one of the groomsmen. So which groomsman has a dad that's passed away?" And at first he was like, "I don't know." And then halfway through saying, "I don't know," he said, I'm going to use a fake name here, but he said, "Isaac's dad, duh." And that's our cousin. And yes, our cousin was a groomsman and his dad has passed away, and he was very close to the people who were getting married and the family. The families were very, very, very close. And my brother was annoyed at me. He's like, "Duh, it's Isaac's dad. How do you not know that?" And I was like, "Oh, I wasn't thinking about my cousin. I was thinking about the 2 groomsmen that I didn't know, assuming it was one of their dads, because why wouldn't Isaac's dad is also my cousin, or we called him my cousin." So I was like, why wouldn't Isaac's dad just tell me it was him? Why would he say I'm one of the groomsmen's dads? Why wouldn't he just say it's his name? Because I know him very well, and he has just recently passed in the last few years. So then once I figured out who it was, I figured out who it was for. That side of the family aren't so much into the mediumship thing, so I wasn't about to run and tell the groomsman about his dad. He also has 5 kids, and all of his kids were at the wedding, and same thing, I wasn't going to go tell them. They're not into this stuff, let's just say. But the groom's family is all very much into this stuff, and they were all very, very close with Isaac's dad. So I ran to the groom's sister, who was the sister that I asked the first time about the poem. I ran to her and I said, "Guess who just showed up? Isaac's dad." And it was really special because, of course, they wanted him to be here. His photo was also on that memorial stand. So it was really nice once we figured it out. So then I went back to where my brother was standing, and I was like, "Oh, he's around you so strongly. I can't even be near you." I was like, "Get away from me." So I turned around and I was talking to 2 other people. So I turned around and I'm talking to 2 other people, and it was one of the bridesmaids now. So one of the bridesmaids that I knew and one of the bridesmaids that I didn't know. And they were like, "What's wrong?" Again, I looked visibly, off. Because I said, "Brother, get away from me. Oh, the spirit's so strong around you. It's making me feel sick." So I turned around and there was the 2 bridesmaids there, and they said, what's wrong? And I said, "With my brother." And then I felt a spirit, and then I went to the bathroom, and then I couldn't figure out who it was. And then I realized it was a groomsman's dad. And then I came out here and I asked my brother who it was. And then we figured out, of course, it's Isaac's dad. Duh, that's my cousin. And I just have to get away from my brother because I don't feel good. And it was one bridesmaid that I knew and one bridesmaid that I didn't know. And at this point of the night, I was like, I don't care who knows I'm a medium. I'm not giving the speech. I'm just telling this story as if it's normal. But the bridesmaid that I didn't know was like super into it. She's like, oh my God, I love this stuff. She's like, that's so cool that you're a psychic medium. No, 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 no. And we were like kind of taught. I was like, yeah, it is cool. And then she's like, does this stuff happen all the time? And I was like, usually no, but a family wedding is always a hit or miss. And I was like, oh, I just feel so sick because the spirit was so strong around my brother and I just can't shake it. And then me and her keep talking. And then I take this big exhale and I was like, oh, okay, I feel better. He's gone. And then the bridesmaid was like, that's so crazy. You literally did that as soon as your brother walked away from behind you. So I had like my back to my brother and we were like a circle of 3 and then behind us were a circle of more cousins. And she was like, as soon as your brother left that area, you took a big exhale and said that you felt better. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of how it works. Like, exactly. So with my brother far away from me, I did one more trip to the bathroom to clear, wash my hands, and then I felt normal and human again. And I just went back to the dance floor, grabbed a drink, and it was business as normal for the rest of the night. No more spirits. But I knew in the back of my head that I had to now get the poem from the bride's mom, and I never actually got the full poem. So she was always telling me kind of like 1 or 2 sentences at a time. So I knew it kind of rhymed, but I never had the full thing in my head. So I was trying to think about it. But mediumship is not your thoughts. And even if she told me before, it's not something I can remember because it's not my thoughts. So I was like, I now have to get this poem for her. And I was like, well, like I was just channeling everybody. So maybe I'll get it, tonight. So I went back. I was staying in a hotel and I was in the hotel room and I got my little notepad and I sat down and I was like, okay, bride's mom, tell me the poem. Nothing. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I will wait. So I'm like, I'm going to have a shower and I'm going to try again. So then I went in the shower and I was clearing. I had a lot to clear. So I was in the shower for a long time. And I was thinking like, okay, I'm clear now. Bride's mom, tell me the poem. Bride's mom, where are you? Bride's mom, I need the poem. Crickets. I got nothing. Nothing. So I go to bed and I just tell myself I'll get the poem another time and I will give them the poem before I leave. That was my kind of next plan. So the next day when I woke up in the hotel room, I was like, okay, I can write the poem now and I'll give it to them today. So again, I went with my pen and paper and I was ready to go and I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm ready for the poem. Nothing. I was like, all right, I'm going to pack and then I'm going to try again. So then I packed up my room and I sat down, pen and paper, ready for the poem, Mom. I'm going to write it down and give it to her. Anytime. Tell me the poem. Why aren't you saying anything? I was like just drawing a blank. Nothing was happening. So then I had to leave and check out of the hotel and the rest of the day was busy. And whenever I had a moment throughout the day, I kept like trying to tune in and be like, poem? Anyone? Anyone gonna show up and tell me something that I can write down? And I got nothing. And we were leaving the next day. So I was like, uh-oh, like what do I do if I don't get the poem? And I didn't get the poem. So we left the next day to go to my dad's house. So then when I was at my dad's house, I was like, maybe I'll get the poem here. I'm relaxing after the wedding. Maybe I'll get the poem. How am I going to get it to the bride now? Well, I don't know, but, I could still write down the poem and I could still give it to her. Nothing. So then I came home and I honestly forgot about it because, I came home after a week away. I was catching up with work. I was this, I was that, I was here, I was there. And again, it wasn't like top of mind, this mom's poem, and the wedding was finished. So I kind of stopped thinking about the poem. So I'm the type of person, I get home from vacation and I go back to work tomorrow. So I was right back with clients and I had clients Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I had Monday off and then I was back to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I believe it was that week I was sitting down at my desk to do a distance Reiki session and I was about to turn on the Zoom for someone, just someone random. And as I still remember, I was turning my chair around to sit down because I had a session. And all of a sudden, the bride's mom showed up. And I was like, now is not the time. Like, I have a session starting in like 30 seconds. And she started to tell me the poem. And I was like, no. Like, I have a client. Like, I don't have time to write this down. So I said, like, come back later. So then I turn on the Zoom. I am having a distance Reiki with the person, and probably about 10 to 15 minutes into their distance Reiki session, bride's mom comes in and she's just telling me the poem. Like, it was just like bam, 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 line by line. And I just grabbed a pen. I grabbed the nearest paper beside me and I scribbled down this poem so fast. I was like, I hope I can read my handwriting later. I'm trying to do distance Reiki for this person right now. And, 20 seconds, wrote down this poem, super messy, threw the pen, went back to my client, trying to focus on them. And I was like, okay, I have the poem. Why did she come in with some random client? I don't know. The only thing I can think of is I was in work mode. And when I'm in work mode, I'm more sensitive to things. When I'm not in work mode, I am off all the time. So I think it was just one of those things where she caught me in between clients, and then she was like, oh no, you're writing this down, because I had a pen and paper beside me. So then after that client, I tried to read my scribbles and rewrite the poem properly. And I was like, oh yeah, like that was what I was hearing in my head. So I was like, well, now how am I going to get it to her? Well, maybe she'll want this piece of paper. I don't know. Is that lame? I don't know. It's like a scribbly piece of paper. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write her a letter and I'm going to send her this piece of paper. So for this entire ordeal, the bride and the groom had no idea what was going on because I never told the bride. I asked my cousin, I asked her sister, I asked her dad, but I never told the bride what was going on. So she's in the dark. She has no idea what's happening. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to write her this letter. And when I write the letter, I'm going to write like a few pages with it. So I was like, yeah, like I'll do that later. Again, it was a work day. And the next day at work, I see my scribbly piece of paper. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to write that letter. And I probably stared at that scribbly piece of paper for like a week. And then again, her mom started to come in and she was nagging me. She's like, send the letter, send the letter, send the letter. And I was like, yeah, I gotta write the letter. Like, I gotta sit down and no. Like, it's gonna take time. Like, I need time to sit down and focus. I was like, I'll write the letter. And, I thought, I'll write the letter eventually. At this point, I had the poem. I wasn't worried. I would send the letter eventually. It really wasn't something I was like, I must do immediately. But then for like a week, her mom came in probably every other day and she was like, write the letter, write the letter, write the letter. And I kept being like, I don't have time to write the letter. I don't have time to write the letter. And then I was also thinking like, oh, I need to buy an envelope and I need to buy a stamp. And, I haven't sent a letter to anyone in a long time. So it was just like one of those things. I'm like, I'll do it later. And then it was a day that I was working in my office. And I was upstairs at my desk just putting a few things into my work bag to bring them to my office because I was working in person. And her mom comes in hot and heavy. She said, write the letter. And I was like, I can't write the letter. I have to go to work in 10 minutes. And she started telling me more stuff that she wanted me to put in the letter. And I was like, ooh, I'm not going to remember this, so I have to write it down. So I sit down at my desk and I get some pieces of paper because I wanted to put it on like nice pieces of paper. And her mom was just like going in my ear. So I'm writing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to work in 5 minutes. Writing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to leave my house in 3 minutes. Writing. I was like, come on, like let me leave and finish this later. I was like, I have to go to work. I can finish this letter later. And it was just like this overwhelming feeling of, nope, write the letter now, finish it now. You have to write it now or you're not going to do it. So I sat down and I wrote 3 pages, I think, and I wrote out the poem again nicely so that she could actually read it because the scribbles were really hard to read. And she just said like a few really nice things. One of the things were when they introduced everybody into the hall, it's introduced the bridesmaids, introduced the groomsmen, introduced the parents of the groom. When they introduced the bride's parents, they introduced parents of the bride. And I remember kind of my ears perking up at the time. And her dad did remarry, and they were very close with her stepmom. But I was like, oh, interesting that they would say parents of the bride. Wow. Just, again, a random thought that I had when they called their name. So the bride's mom wanted me to write in the letter, and on your wedding day, you had 3 parents of the bride supporting you and with you. And I just thought that was so special. It acknowledges the stepmother and her role in the life. It also, acknowledges that she was there. And it was just really nice the way she said it. There was 3 parents of the bride there. So anyways, I wrote down this letter and I was nearly almost late for work. So I was like, oh my gosh, I need to now run to work. So I'm running to work, and it was one of my regular clients. And I was like, you know what? If I'm late and I say Spirit was making me write a letter, this is one of the clients that would be like, oh yeah, no problem. No questions asked. He would have just been like, cool, that's okay. So the letter is written. I then found an envelope for the letter, and I put it in the envelope. And now I needed to buy the stamp. So I knew I had to find a time when the post office was open. I had to walk to the post office. I had to buy a singular stamp, and then I had to mail this letter. So first the letter was on my desk. And again, the mom was in my ear. Mail the letter, mail the letter, mail the letter. And, after the 3rd time, I'm like, okay, I'm going to bring the letter downstairs and put it by my door so that, if I ever have a chance to walk to the post office, I'll remember. And then again, the mom was in my ear. Mail the letter, mail the letter, mail the letter. And I think it probably took me about another week to actually buy the stamp and mail it. And on the card, on the back of it, because again, I didn't want her just opening her mail and finding this letter. So on the back of the card, I wrote, open when you are ready for a little cry. And she would have seen that it was coming from Banff, so she knows about me and what I do. She knows I'm a psychic medium. She's into this stuff. So I just felt like she would know 2 and 2 together. And then I waited, and I was thinking, wow, how long does it take for a letter to be delivered? Because I thought the bride would message me, and she didn't message me. And I was like, maybe she didn't get the letter. And then I was like, well, what if it didn't get to her? So then I was worried that she didn't get the letter, because now I think it was 2 weeks. And then again, her mom was in my ear being like, follow up with her, see if she got the letter. And I was like, no, I'm not bothering her. She'll message me when she gets the letter. Again, her mom was like, see if she got the letter. So finally I listened, and I sent a message, and I said, hey, I sent you a letter, and I was just wondering if you got it. And she answered, and she said, yes, I got it a few days ago, but I was just waiting for when I wanted to cry, and I opened it yesterday. And I'll leave the rest out because, there's lots of personal things, but it was beautiful. It was well received. It's something she'll keep forever. But just on the last note of how smart her mom was. So she bothered me to write the letter. She bothered me to get a stamp for the letter. And then she bothered me to follow up about the letter. And when I finally did, it was the day after she opened the letter. So I kind of rolled my eyes. And when the bride said she just opened the letter yesterday, and I was like, of course you just opened the letter yesterday. And of course your mom got loud to me today to follow up with you. She was making sure that I followed up with you the day after you opened the letter. I was just like, Spirit's so smart. It was so well orchestrated. So many things were done on purpose. It was just, beautiful. It was so beautiful and moving and touching, and this was a good one. This was a real good one. And I kind of laughed and I was like, oh, when your family member's a medium, like, do you expect these things? And I was like, no, I don't think you expect a letter poem from, passed away loved ones on your wedding day. I don't know if that's expected. And then I was also like, I should do this more. And then I was also like, well, I'm not in charge. Like, Spirit has to give me a poem to write it down. And it was just, it was a lot of like thinking and like, wow, Spirit's smart. I said it before and I said it again. They're smarter than us. They know what's up. So that is the entire story, stretched out over months. That was probably 4 months total, from when I first started getting the poem to the wedding, to weeks after the wedding, getting the poem, to a week later finally mailing the poem, to 2 weeks later finally following up with the poem. So just as a reminder, these things take time to unfold. I know I can tell you the story in 20 minutes, but this is 4 months put into a nice little story. So that wraps up the wedding poem delivery. I hope part 2 was worth the wait. I am now back to regular scheduled programming. There will be new episodes every Wednesday, so make sure you're following along. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to the podcast and I will pop up in your library every week. Or I would really appreciate a rating and a review. All the links to work with me will be down below in the show notes. Everything is on my website, themediuminthemiddle.com, but I will direct link to my courses, to sessions with me in person or virtually. But until next Wednesday, Middlers, when I see you in your ears for a birthday episode, I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye.